do is check the units for what our model space is set up for. So the deal with model space, and then this is the benefit of what AutoCAD has brought, is before we were drafting in programs, we were drafting by hand. And if you're designing something large, like a park or a building or a huge engineered system that spans more than the size of your desk, you need to draw it at a scale. And we're going to talk about scales a lot as we go through different sections. But we are drawing everything at full scale in model space. That means if something is 12 feet, then we're drawing a 12-foot line. That way we know everything is exact as possible, and then we set the scale in our layout page. So first thing we're going to do, and this is our first introductions into typing commands, you don't have to click into the command prompt. You always can, but realistically, you can start typing commands anywhere. So our first command that we're going to put in is for units. So I'm going to type UN and then hit enter. And what that does is it brings up this drawing units menu. The other way of doing this, so UN is the shortcut. You can also type units, enter, and space bar act as the same thing. So that basically executes your command or ends a command. So now that we're in our drawing menu, drawing units menu, let's talk about a couple of things that are in here. So first is length. This is actually what we'll be changing. One of the things we'll be changing in here, and I'll show you why. So we've got our length, our angle. Basically, this is just preferences of what you want to enter for angles. I stick with decimal degrees. That's the easiest for me to think in. That would mean if I wanted to rotate something by 45 degrees, I would type in 45. Degrees, minutes, seconds is a little bit more, I would say, catered to surveyors. That has to do with a north orientation. And then grads, radians, this is all very deep math stuff. I learned all of this in high school, but typically you see everything in decimal degrees. So I stick with decimal degrees. Precision of zeros is usually fine. You try to work to whole numbers as much as possible anyway. And then insertion scale. This is actually one of the things we always want to double check. So right now this file is set up for inches. If I click on this, we've got we've got light years in here, which is a bit, I can't imagine drafting something in light years, but I'm sure somebody has. Typically what you'll see, particularly files coming from engineers or surveyors, is they may have their files set in feet or unitless. And the unitless tends to also be feet. It's just sort of a thing I've noticed older users of CAD tend to set their files as. We're going to do everything in inches. So make sure you set this to inches, and we're actually going to change this to architectural. And the reason we're going to change it to architectural, I'm going to show you, but it allows you to work in both feet and inches simultaneously, where if you have just decimal, or engineering for that matter, you can only work in whatever scale you've set. So I'm going to show you an example. I'm actually going to leave this as decimal. I'm going to hit OK. Here's a command that we're going to touch on when we get to our drawing section, our drafting section, is polyline. So I'm going to type PL enter or PL space. So let's say I need to draw a 12-foot line. Well, I can't type 12 feet, 12 apostrophe, because it doesn't understand that because I'm set in decimal. It only understands the exact unit that I'm putting in. So I'd actually have to type 144 because that's, let's zoom out here, because that's 12 times 12 is 144. So this line is 144 inches, meaning it's 12 feet. So you can see the problem there as you start to get to larger numbers or more complicated numbers. Like I don't know what 13 feet 5 inches is off the top of my head. I'd have to pull out a calculator and do the math to draw the line, which to me is another couple of seconds you have to spend, and all of that time adds up to create a large amount of time that you work on something. I'm always trying to find little corners to cut things to make things easier. I'm going to type UN again, open up our units, change this to architectural. This means that I can now work in both feet and inches simultaneously. So I can both draw a line, do 144, hit enter. I have the same line. I can also, well, if you hit enter or space after your previous command, it'll do the same command again. We'll do that a lot as we go through all of these. So now instead of typing 144 inches, I can type 12 apostrophe enter, and I have a 12-foot line. Obviously, we'll do the example I said. I can type 13 apostrophe 5 double apostrophe, and I get 13 feet 5 inches. So if I type DI for distance, that's a measurement tool. We'll talk about this more as we go. And I go out, as you can see on the screen, I've got 13 feet 5 inches.